Hello and a warm welcome to everyone tuning in. In this video, I'm sharing something deeply personal with you. A recent life-threatening experience that completely changed my world. I've divided my journey up into a 3-part video series. Part 1 is my initial recollection of what happened. And I filmed this when I was still in shock. Part 2, I want to talk about PTSD and just how debilitating that can be in everyday life and what I have done to seek help and get to the core of the issue and heal. Part 3, I want to tell you how I've made a full recovery in under 2 weeks and how I've gained confidence in driving again. Ago, I had a near-death experience from unintentional carbon monoxide poisoning from driving my van, and I wanted to share my story with you in hope that it could potentially save someone's life. So a bit of a backstory. I'm currently living in my van whilst on work placement for my final year of uni because I'm traveling all around New South Wales and Victoria. It's a Mitsubishi Express 91 model. It is dual fuel, so it runs on gas and petrol. So I was driving from Wagga to Nagambie because I was going to a festival there and was going to be running a workshop. On the way there, I started noticing pins and needles in my hands to begin with, and I felt like I wasn't getting enough oxygen in, and I was like, I couldn't understand why, so I started trying to regulate my breathing by doing, I guess, slow breaths, deep breaths in and out, and trying not to panic. But then the pins and needles was progressively getting worse. It was traveling from my hands up to my forearms, and then it was happening in my face. And I really recognized it in my palate and above my lip here, but my whole face was starting to get pins and needles. And it got to a point, like I was just like, push through, you'll be fine, because I didn't understand what was going on. But then I got to a point where I thought, oh my God, I'm going to pass out. This is dangerous. I need to pull over. Yeah, so at this point, I'm traveling 110 on the freeway, and I'm like, fuck, where am I going to pull over? I'm going to pass out. I need to pull over. I'm going to pass out. Where's safe to do so? So I'm praying at this point. I'm like, please let there be a safe place to pull over. I'm barely holding on to consciousness right now. Managed to pull over at the next exit just in time, because then I went into this weird conscious seizure type thing. My whole body was vibrating. My hands went into spasm. They were like this. And I was, to me at the time, I was like, if I pass out, that's it, I'm done. I'm gonna die on the side of the road here and no one's even gonna know. So I somehow managed to, while I'm seizing and while my hands are in spasm, I managed to call 000. As you can imagine, I was scared shitless. I had no idea what was happening to me. I'd managed to call 000. I felt like they were kind of like, oh, you know, she's probably having a panic attack or something. I get that they wouldn't know what's going on either, but I felt really alone. I was on my own. I felt really scared and I wasn't sure what was happening. But after about half an hour, I could move my hands again and I felt just completely wiped out. I felt okay, but completely wiped out. Like living in a van, I had food, I had water, so I started eating and drinking. Even though I wasn't hungry or thirsty, I just thought maybe my body needs some energy. And then I was 20 minutes from my destination. So I was like, okay, let's just drive to the destination. I canceled the ambulance at this point. I didn't think it was an emergency situation anymore. I was like, let's just go to Nagambie and go from there. But then after about 10 minutes into the drive, I started getting the same symptoms. My hands started getting pins and needles. It progressed to my forearms. And I'm like, no, I have to get to safety. I need to get to this town. So I called my ex-partner and I'm like, can you please just stay with me on the phone while I'm driving here? I don't feel like I can call an ambulance again. I just got to get to somewhere. And I just want someone to be with me while I'm going through this experience. And I managed to just get to a service station at Nagambie, and my whole body kind of went limp. All my muscles stopped working, it felt. So my hands went limp. They were like this. I couldn't, like, I had no control over my hands. And I just remember busting to go to the toilet. I was like, I have to go to the toilet. But I kept my ex on the phone. I was like, can you just walk with me? I could barely walk. I was sort of limping. It was very strange, not feeling like I had control over my body. I felt like I was having an out-of-body experience as well. I was sort of like in and out of, I don't know. It was very, very strange. Mind you, I am a blubbering mess at this point. I'm like, what is happening to me? I have no idea what's going on. I'm scared. I don't know. My body isn't responding properly to, yeah. So anyway, my ex was like, okay, this is a medical center. It's just down the road. And I'm like, okay, I have to get to that. So I went there and I drove there, even though I was feeling quite unsafe to drive there, but I did. And I stumbled into this medical clinic and got help there. So they're taking my vitals, they're questioning me, have you been taking drugs, all the rest of it, like, which is just, their common practice. And my heart was racing. So they were like, it's like someone who had been running. So my heart was working in overdrive. I wasn't getting enough oxygen in, so my oxygen levels were low. I remember when they were taking my blood pressure, my arm got pins and needles straight away and it went limp and it freaked me out. They were just as baffled as me. They were kind of like, okay, we think you might have had a hypoglycemic episode or a hypotension episode, because my blood pressure and they took a finger prick test. My blood glucose levels were a little bit low, but nothing really out of the ordinary. And I don't have any underlying medical conditions. So then a dear friend who was running the festival I was meant to be going to and doing a workshop at comes to collect me. And I'm like, I made a full recovery. I felt okay. I was like, okay, I feel wiped out again, but I'm okay. And, I was like, okay, I can follow this up with the GP when I get back to Melbourne. So I left the clinic and went to the festival, but there was no service there. And I just felt a bit like, if this happens again, I want to be somewhere where I can actually call for help if need be. So I decided to drive to Melbourne. As you can imagine, because the car was the unknown source of this whole thing, I start getting the symptoms again. So I'm calling my mom and I'm freaking out on the phone to my mom. And she was sort of freaking out a bit, but she gets my dad on the phone and my dad's trying to calm me down. And I pulled over to recover and then I drove back again. But I was like on this, I need to get to Melbourne. I need to get to safety. I need to know that there's an ambulance just around the corner, basically. And so, yeah, managed to get to Melbourne and I was okay, but just what the hell has just happened? So the next day I book in at the GP to get my bloods taken. And it was actually my mother that was like, hang on, is your van leaking gas? Is that an option there? That's a potential. And I'm like, fuck, yes. It smells of gas when I'm driving it. And I'm like, I've just sort of, I don't know, maybe it's just me being in denial because I'm a student and I'm not wanting to deal with having to pay for it to get fixed. Also putting it down to it being an old vehicle. Yeah, it's an old vehicle. It stinks. That's just the way it is. But once my mother suggested that, I looked up the signs and symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning and ticked all of the freaking boxes. And I was like, oh my God, I think this is what's actually happened, because I don't have any underlying medical illnesses that would warrant a hypoglycemic episode or a hypotension episode. So yeah. And fair enough, I take it to the mechanics and they're like, oh, your exhaust pipe is not pumping all of the fumes out the exhaust pipe. It's actually going into the van. And for those that know vans, your engine and everything's underneath your seat at the front. It was something to do with the gasket or whatever that had a bolt missing that was open. It was pumping it all up underneath my seat. So I was choking on these fumes whilst driving. So I wanted to share my story because I have had a friend pass away from carbon monoxide poisoning from a generator being set up close enough to the van where at a festival where it was pumping in these toxic gases. And here's the thing, it's a silent killer. You don't really smell it that much. You're like, oh yeah, it's okay. Even with my windows down in the van, I was my oxygen levels were low and it was a close call. I just want to spread this awareness because if you do drive an older vehicle, then I think it's really important to have regular checks at your mechanic, and also to get, well, I've just purchased a carbon monoxide detector, which was pretty cheap if you're in Australia, from Dick Smith, $30, and it's just a USB charger thing. Anyway, it was a close call for me. It was a very serious thing that happened. No one knew what was happening, including myself. And now that I know what it is, I just wanted to share this story in hope that it can help potentially save someone else's life. Thanks for listening if you've listened this far. All right, now stay safe. So if this resonates with you, please hit that subscribe button, give me a like, share this with someone who might benefit from hearing this story, and please stay tuned for part 2 and 3 where I unpack it even more and go deeper into the psychological, physiological and spiritual healing journey.